why the dragons turned on their riders. Good day, lords and ladies of Westeros. Welcome back to Westeros Throne, your home for all things fire, blood, and betrayal. Now, before we soar into the chaos, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell, because, much like a dragon, this channel only gets hotter the closer you fly to it. And trust me, this one's going to burn. Because today, we're answering one of the wildest questions in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon lore. Why did the dragons, those mighty, loyal, fire-breathing beasts, suddenly start turning on their riders? We're talking about the ultimate fantasy betrayal. You raise them, feed them, fly them, and then one day, they eat you. That is the Westerosi equivalent of your pet dog turning into a flamethrower with trust issues. But as ridiculous as it sounds, there is method in the madness. The dragons didn't just go rogue for the fun of it. There's a dark, psychological, and even mystical reason behind why the bond between dragons and their riders shattered. Let's break it down before Drogon decides we're on the menu. When you think of dragons in Westeros, the first thing that comes to mind is power, pure, unfiltered dominance. They're living weapons, gods with scales. But what most people forget is that dragons are not pets or tools. They are creatures of deep magic, pride, and instinct. They don't obey out of fear. They obey out of connection. That connection, the bond between dragon and rider, is built on something more than just training. It is blood, spirit, and a level of understanding that transcends language. When that bond is pure, you get greatness, like Aegon the Conqueror and Balerion the Black Dread, whose partnership literally built an empire. But when that bond fractures, you get chaos. Let's fast forward to the Dance of the Dragons, the civil war that tore House Targaryen apart and gave us the greatest dragon-on-dragon carnage in history. By that point, dragons weren't symbols of destiny anymore. They were weapons of convenience. And that's where everything started to go wrong. You see, dragons could sense the divide in House Targaryen, the lies, the betrayal, the greed. To them, the bloodline that once united their magic was now poisoned by ambition. When your family starts murdering each other over a chair, it's safe to say the dragons probably noticed the bad vibes. And bad vibes, my friends, are deadly when your emotional support animal can breathe napalm. Take Sunfire, for instance. Aegon II's gorgeous, golden beast. During the war, even he turned against his rider after being injured in battle. Aegon tried to keep him under control, but Sunfire had other plans, savage, independent plans. It's as if the dragons were done being the Targaryens' emotional punching bags. But the most chilling example comes later at Dragonstone. The Dragon Pit Massacre, a moment that screamed poetic justice louder than Daemon Targaryen's ego. Picture this. A mob of desperate commoners storms the Dragon Pit, thinking they can end the war by killing the dragons. Foolish, right? But what happened next was pure madness. The dragons fought back and against each other. These beasts, bound by blood and fire, lost all sense of loyalty. Some attacked their riders. Others burned everything around them. No friend or foe distinction. It was pure destruction, primal, uncontrolled, and deeply symbolic. Because here's the kicker. The dragons weren't just rebelling against humans. They were rebelling against the Targaryen idea itself. Now, this is where it gets interesting and slightly uncomfortable for House Targaryen fans. The dragons, in many ways, were a reflection of their riders. When the family fell into division and madness, the dragons mirrored that chaos. Think of them as magical mirrors, emotional amplifiers that reflect the soul of their master. When the Targaryens were united, dragons brought peace through power. When they were consumed by greed, dragons became unpredictable, violent, and self-destructive. It's like Westerosi therapy with fire breath. Daemon Targaryen understood this better than anyone. He didn't control Caraxes, he respected him. Their bond was built on mutual danger, not dominance. But later generations forgot that truth. They treated dragons like war machines, trophies, or royal pets. And dragons don't take kindly to being downgraded from gods to pets. Here's where things take a darker, almost mystical turn. There's a theory among maesters, whispered in the Citadel halls, that dragons are directly connected to the Targaryens' blood magic. Meaning, when the family's bloodline was corrupted through infighting, the magic that tethered them to the dragons began to decay. So, when Rhaenyra's forces started battling Aegon's, it wasn't just a civil war. It was a magical implosion. The source of their power began turning inward, like wildfire eating through the vaults of the Red Keep. That's why the dragons started dying out after the dance. It wasn't just about swords or spears. It was spiritual. The Targaryens had lost their connection to the divine flame that made them dragon lords in the first place. And in that final act of rebellion, the dragons destroyed themselves along with their masters. It's like nature pressing the reset button. The message was clear. If you cannot respect the fire, you do not deserve to hold it. Now let's talk about the psychology behind it, because yes, even fire-breathing monsters have feelings. Dragons, much like their riders, are intelligent but emotional. They sense fear, anger, grief, and betrayal. They know when they're being used. During the later stages of the war, many dragons were ridden by bastards, children, or strangers, people who had no true bond with them. The dragons could feel that. They fought not out of loyalty, but because they were forced. That forced bond, that artificial connection, snapped under the weight of blood and fire. And when it did, dragons didn't just rebel, they slaughtered. Think about it. If you spent your life being ridden into battle by people who see you as a weapon, wouldn't you get tired of it? These creatures were bred for dominance, not servitude. So when the Targaryens lost their unity, the dragons lost their reason to obey. It is poetic in a cruel way. The family that built its legacy on dragons was ultimately destroyed by them. And if you zoom out a bit, it fits perfectly with Game of Thrones' favorite theme. Power always consumes its wielder. From the Iron Throne cutting anyone who sits on it to wildfire devouring the pyromancers who created it. And yes, to dragons turning on their masters. The message is consistent. The things you use to rule will eventually destroy you if you forget their true nature. And that's exactly what happened to the Targaryens. Let's fast forward to modern Game of Thrones for a moment, to Daenerys Targaryen. She actually learned this lesson the hard way. She treated her dragons with awe and affection, but even then, she never truly controlled them. Drogon was loyal, but also unpredictable. When he torched King's Landing, it wasn't because Daenerys whispered "burn them all" in his ear. It was because he felt her rage, her grief, and too. So the next time you see a Targaryen climb onto a dragon's back, remember this. They aren't flying because they command it. They're flying because the dragon allows it. Thank you for watching Westeros Throne. Until next time, keep your sword sharp, your loyalty sharper, and never, ever turn your back on dragon.